Hello, people. This is the Lee Cole 3 podcast with my partner, James Proctor. James, we were not planning on doing this show tonight, were we?
No, we weren't. We had another planned show to do, but sometimes breaking news and priorities take precedence.
And we had a lawyer, Mikey Scars, just so I'm going to put this up. And listen, this stuff showed up in an envelope on James' door, and then James, ushered it over to me. This is none of this is out there yet. We're going to be the first one covering it. And Mikey Scars, from what I understand, is going to be dropping the full show, in a couple days. But we want to talk about some very important stuff here. Okay, so basically, the name of the show that they're going to be dropping is called "I Know the Liar and Piece of Crap Sammy the Bull Is. He's the Devil Incarnate." So, what do you think about that?
Yeah, I mean, I really thought it was interesting. I was able to listen to the
I mean,
to
what do you
the
think about Sammy being compared to the devil?
well, I mean, there's some good. Yeah, it could be a good comparison. If you look back at a lot of the devious activity that he's been involved with.
Okay, so why don't you explain who the guest was that he had on tonight, Mikey Scars? Because this was a very big guest, and it was a lawyer that was around all the other lawyers when this case was going on, and he basically
Hmm.
could tell us what Sammy was lying about
Yes.
compared to what he's saying now on his shows. Why don't you give us an example? What's the lawyer's name?
Yeah, the lawyer that was brought on is Anthony Cardinale, and he represented John Gotti in the '90s. In this particular trial, we're talking about the final trial of John Gotti, where he got life in prison, and Locasio as well, and that's where Sammy had flipped and was testified against Gotti and Locasio. Anyway, if people remember, you had the lawyers originally, Bruce Cutler for Gotti, Gerald Shargell, and then John Pollock, that they ended up getting removed because they were considered basically too close. They were on some of the tape, so they weren't allowed to represent them. They were considered the in-house lawyers for the mob. But anyway, part of this was that they need to get new attorneys to be able to represent them. And we'd been talking, uh, you know, in our show earlier this week about F. Lee Bailey and some of the stuff that was being mentioned by Sammy Gravano, but this guy Anthony Cardinale ends up being the attorney for uh, Frankie Locasio.
Right. And so he's the attorney for him, but he gets into the stuff that Sammy was saying. Let's break this down.
Hmm.
Let's talk. Okay, first of all, Sammy said that John Gotti asked him to take the fall because he had to be out in the street. What
Yep.
did Anthony Cardinelli, the lawyer that actually knows all these lawyers, the ones that are still alive that were in this case, and they all say that Sammy's lying, that never happened.
Right.
So why don't you tell us what he says?
Yeah. So a couple of things is that Cardinale, had spoke with F. Lee Bailey many times. In fact, Cardinale had started his career working for F. Lee Bailey. They were friends. They were close, and so they had dinner every night during the trial of John Gotti. And so the thing was, F. Lee Bailey never mentioned anything about John Gotti trying to throw Gravano and Frankie Loke under the bus to take the fall. In fact, Cardinale said that if that had taken place, Bailey would have definitely said something to him. But referring to Gravano, a couple of important points from the interview discussion tonight was that Gravano would have mentioned it in his book Underboss. That was never mentioned. There was a part where Gravano said, well, he was thinking it may be that Gotti was going to try to throw him under the bus and all that. But, Gravano never mentioned it. Then, they had the interview with Diane Sawyer. It was never mentioned there. So all of a sudden, none of this comes out until 30 years later, and also after F. Lee Bailey had died in 2021.
Right.
So unfortunately, F. Lee Bailey cannot collaborate, or he can't defend himself on this.
And he
So
also said that F. Lee Bailey did an interview with Jerry Capisci, and at that time, F. Lee Bailey was in critical condition for the last couple of months of his life. And
yeah,
during this period of
wouldn't have
time,
been
it would have been
possible.
impossible for F. Lee Bailey to talk to anybody. He could barely speak. He was almost comatose. And this is what Anthony Cardinale said.
Hmm.
Am I correct? The lawyer?
Yes, exactly.
Okay.
That's what he said.
And he's on this show for an hour and 40 minutes, and he's laying
Hmm.
everything out. And he's
Yes.
basically saying that Sammy also always had this card in his back pocket, and he
Yes.
knew whatever he told the feds they were going to buy. And
Hmm.
Sammy lied about a lot of things.
Hmm.
And Sammy to this day is still lying. One
Yeah.
thing, Sammy said he's going to do a show where he comes up with the interview that he did with Capisci. There was never no interview with Capisci. Sammy ain't coming up with no actual interview, is he?
No, it's not possible. And I'm not going to go into Capisci, but if
No,
you read
we
the
said what we had to
article,
say about
yeah,
Capisci.
yeah, it's just nothing that even in the article really states that there was any sit down interview between Capisci and Bailey. So that was also something Gravano made up. And so the other thing is that that's being that's was really categorically
The
disputed
friction
by.
between Locasio and
Hmm.
Gotti. There
Yeah,
was
that's.
no friction between, and this is the lawyers, none.
Hmm.
And
And
he
the
said
lawyer knew him and his son. I believe his son's Tony Locasio, and they talked a lot. And never was there anything ever mentioned. It was always they looked up to John Gotti, and so that was always uh, that never took place. And then regarding F. Lee Bailey, we need to look at the date. So this is back in the 6th. So when this meeting supposedly took place was August 6, 1991. And if you go back in history, F. Lee Bailey, he's already a famous attorney at the time. This is before OJ. But the thing was, he would have 100% took that case if he had a chance. And the only
why. What
reason
was the main reason he would have taken that case? Because Sammy said
he
that he walked out. He said I don't want no part of this. What would be the
Mhm.
main reason F. Lee Bailey would have taken that case? One thing that we know that was going on with him at that time in his life.
Yeah, he had a lot of legal issues going on down in Florida, and so
He
in
was
fact
broke.
he was broke. He was
Okay.
broke. He ended up getting paid in some stock where there was I believe a drug dealer, and the government took like $4 million from F. Lee Bailey. He was broke. They put him in jail for
6 months.
6 months. Yep. And so he needed the money. Plus, if you know F. Lee Bailey, he would take any case that would get him out in the limelight. This was as high profile as you could get. He would have
And
taken
every
that
one of
case.
those lawyers got paid big money, but for defending
Yes.
Gotti and Locasio, and
Hmm.
they all got paid. He didn't owe nobody money. They had money
No,
coming in, paying them.
exactly.
And
And he was, yep.
just to give you an idea who this Cardinale, the lawyer that we're speaking
Yeah.
about, did you know that he was instrumental in unmasking the Whitey Bulger, Flemmy as federal informants? He's the one that was
Hmm.
instrumental in that because he was filing uh, because he was basically looking for discovery. So
Yes.
he did some filing, and so the FBI were forced to give away stuff that showed that Whitey Bulger and Steve Flemmy were informants. So
Yes.
this lawyer Cardinale, he's not Cardinale. He's a Boston lawyer now. He's still active, and
Hmm.
so this isn't just some fly by night lawyer coming out saying this stuff, is it?
No, it's not. And in fact, he had represented in the commission trial. He represented Fat Tony Salerno. He was also did.
Salami's lawyer, the
Hmm.
Boston family at that time up in uh, in Boston. He
Yep.
also represented the Ajulo brothers,
Yep.
so he had a hell of a record.
Oh
I,
yeah, definitely, definitely. So, and And so, this guy is a top notch lawyer. And so, I believe what he said on that. Looks like
Okay.
someone's came onto our
Somebody
show.
world famous.
Hmm, hmm.
First of all, let's say
Hello.
happy birthday to
Happy
Angel Gotti.
birthday.
Thank you so much. Thank you. I don't know what you're talking about. How long have you been on?
Now we were talking about you, but now that you're here, we're not gonna.
Okay, good.
Okay. So Angel, here's what I wanted to say. Anthony Cardinale.
Okay.
How how would you describe him in general? You personally, uh,
Tony?
yeah.
Tony's what he
Yeah,
goes.
Tony
Tony Cardinale.
Cardinale.
Hmm.
Hold on. Very good attorney and a dear friend of my father's.
Do you think he would go on Mikey Scar's show tonight with RJ and lie?
What?
Do you think that he would go on RJ's show with Mikey Scars and lie about defending your father? Or is he pretty honest guy?
No, he wouldn't lie.
Exactly. And so he's making some statements. He's calling out Sammy, which we call him out all the time, Angel, but we always needed a lawyer that was around those other lawyers around your father.
Right.
And because Sammy made a lot of statements, and Tony Cardinale said that basically Sammy always had this plan to do this, and he just waited for the right moment to pull it. Would you agree with that?
Yes, 100%. I've been saying it for, well, how long did he start this crap now? A few years now.
Yeah.
Hmm.
I've
Now
been
let's break
saying
it.
it ever since.
Well, and
So
they
he,
think that he also, one of the interesting things from the interview, Lee and Angel, was that he mentioned that the government, they wanted to tie, the only thing they really wanted to do, their big thing was they wanted to tie the Paul Castellano murder to John Gotti. And so he's stating, Cardinale, that that a lot of that is lies, what was said about what happened that night. So there was
first
a
of
lot of,
all,
Exactly.
yeah.
Another
First,
thing we've been saying.
yes, I
yep,
remember
and
you
they
did.
weren't in the car,
They were not anywhere near
it,
there.
what it
And
wasn't
here's the
possible because it was a bus lane. There was a lot of stuff that it just wasn't possible, especially
And let me
with the
take you through
traffic.
this real quick. So
Yep.
he's saying that they were across the street for 20 minutes, Christmas week, the busiest week of the year in that area, and the cars parked right there illegally, so that they don't want to be noticed, right? And then they're saying that after they were shot, that John Gotti, who Sammy said was the driver, went around and said, "I want to make sure they're dead," and he turned around and came back down. And then,
Absolutely not.
but here's where it's very questionable. How would John Gotti even see the body if Sammy said he's sitting in the passenger seat?
Listen, my father said it's a statement in my brother's book, and it's I think it's on one of the prison tapes that his son, my deceased 12-year-old brother, should rot in hell if Gravano was 50 miles within that place, that steakhouse that night. My
And
father would never ever swear on his son's grave and lie.
and Anthony Cardinale came out and he basically stated that there's no way that happened because
Exactly.
it's too much of his. He makes it sound like an action movie.
Exactly. And who wouldn't recognize John Gotti in Manhattan?
That's a good point, and it was done. And so, what the motivation for Gravano was that he wanted to get out of this. He wanted to, and he knew that the carrot that he had was that, oh, I'm going to make up this story about what happened with Paul Castellano, because he
Exactly.
realized that that's all they really cared about. They didn't care about the other people that might, like DB and a lot of these other guys that was around Gravano and that life. And so they were only concerned about Paul Castellano. That was the big fish. If they could tie that to John Gotti, that's what they wanted to do. And so, he developed this story. Gravano did.
And
How
it
come
was just
nobody's ever went to prison for that?
Hmm. That's an interesting thing. And I
hmm
don't believe that that your father was ever convicted on that murder. I don't
Oh,
think there
I
was
think
ever
they
a murder.
were.
Oh, it
Yeah,
They
was?
were.
Oh,
Yep.
okay. I
yeah,
thought it
but
was just
nobody else was.
racketeering or
Yeah,
something.
nobody else
Yeah.
was.
Nobody else, and according to Sammy, there were like 10 guys involved for
Yeah.
sure.
Mm-hmm.
And I don't even believe the shooters came forward.
No, he
No.
doesn't. He doesn't even know who the shooters were.
And
Right. He didn't even know about about them being in wearing the Russian outfits or whatever either.
Exactly.
okay, so let's go on to the next phase. Uh, so Angel, he said that at that time F. Lee Bailey was in financial straits, so he went
Mhm.
in there and he heard all this stuff, and then he said, "I want no part of it," and he left. We all know that F. Lee Bailey was a carnival lawyer that would take any case to
Any
get
case.
to, if he knew he was, and at that time he was in trouble. He had some of his own legal troubles.
Hmm. Yeah, he went to prison.
Yeah, he did,
And he
and at
was, I
that,
believe he was, I don't want to talk ill of the dad, but I believe he had alcoholic problems too.
yes,
Yeah, he
Yeah.
died of cirrhosis, and
Yeah.
my
Okay.
understanding is the reason that he didn't get the position, become the attorney, is that when they
Hmm.
talked at Locasio and your
did not like
dad,
him.
yeah, they felt that, yeah, with his trouble in Florida, do we really want to be represented by someone that's got these issues?
And that's
That's
Hmm.
what was said.
what Cardinale said. He said that
Hmm.
Frankie Locke did not want F. Lee
Frankie
Bailey, and
Loke.
that's the reason that he did not
Bloke,
get
yeah,
the case.
yeah.
Yeah, no. Um,
And he was friends with him and his son Tony, and nothing was ever mentioned of that they wanted to kill your father. There was never any
exactly. That's
ill
such a
word.
lie. Frankie and my father were extremely close.
Yep,
Um,
that's what he said on the show as
yes.
well.
Yes.
Yeah, and just and Cardinale, what he exactly said, he said that they were very close friends, and even when they were sentenced, that Frankie Locke made a beautiful
Loke.
statement.
Frankie Loke.
Look,
Locke, come on, okay, uh,
Frankie Loke.
okay. Uh, so
And
anyway,
he got up and he even said, the judge asked him if he had anything to say, and he said, yeah, the only thing that I'm guilty of being friends with John Gotti and something like that, and that
yeah.
if there were more men like John Gotti in this world, this country would be a much better place.
Hey, Lee,
Frankie
you've got
Lowe did not have to get
yeah.
up and say a
No,
word, but he did.
no. We have the exact comment. Do you want to say it or me?
well, first I just want to read a quick statement. This is
Yeah.
how Cardinale. You could say that statement, but this is how Cardinale described John Gotti. He said he described John Gotti as a smart, tough man who could be wickedly funny, even when he knew the case was going down in flames and he would be most likely to go to jail for a long, long time. He still laughed and made jokes. And
100%.
that's how he described. He didn't describe John Gotti as some wickedly mad guy telling people to take the fall. And he said that because of Costa Nostra and just
Cosa Nostra.
Angel, please, just because of it, that they would never, that John Gotti followed all the rules and would never break those rules, and that he would go to prison before his guys would go to prison. And this comes from the lawyer's mouth.
100%. And
Well,
listen,
yeah.
that man suffered. I'm going to tell everybody, this is the 1,000th time I'm going to say it. He suffered like a dog,
Hmm.
and he never complained, never, you know, said, get me out of here, do something. Never. He would never let us do anything to help him.
Yep, and that's what the lawyer. That's what Cardinale said. He said he didn't want. He knew what was going on, and God, he didn't want anyone to know that he was suffering from this. And he was talking about some of the stuff that, like, he had some problems with his teeth implant in his teeth. They had to remove that because it's just awful what was happening to his jaw and different things. And he thinks that it's possible that the cancer that he got was a result of the conditions in the
Yes.
prison.
He was pulling the implants out with his hands.
Mm. Wow.
Angel, I know you have your issues with Mikey Scars, but when this lawyer when this lawyer Cardinale goes on his show, what do
Hmm.
you think when Mikey Scars gets people like that on his show? Do you think that's a good thing because they can really make Sammy into what he is, a liar?
Um, hmm. Well, it's a good thing that Cardinale is, yeah, calling out his lies. I, listen, I don't know I'm not going to pretend that I like Mikey Scars.
Of course.
Okay. But I do like that he's, telling the truth. I do like that, okay, he's on this mission to discredit Gravano. But, it's like hard for me because, I mean, my brother was facing the death penalty. So
Yes.
Yeah.
it's hard for me to say positive things about him,
Hmm.
but yet on the other hand, is he calling out Gravano? Okay, that's a good thing. Yeah. Tony Cardinale, I'm surprised he went on Mikey
Scarred.
Scars'
Yeah.
show. Yeah, I'm surprised. But look, I guess it's important to him as well to
Hmm.
discredit Gravano with his lies.
I'm
So
sure
that's a good thing.
I'm
Yeah.
sure Cardinale had to consider it, whether it
Yeah,
was worth doing it, because
exactly. And
uh,
obviously he felt that it was.
Yeah. You know what?
and
I'm. I'm
go.
sorry.
I'm sorry.
Yeah. One of the things I was going to say that was interesting was they were talking about how uh, your father. One of the things that he always said to any of the attorneys whenever there was a meeting, he said, "We're in this together, the three of us." Talking about Gravano, uh,
Hmm.
Frankie Loke, and himself. He said he would never allow any of them to do the case separately. He didn't want meetings to take place without all of them together. He wanted everything transparent, and so he would never have met with an attorney without Gravano and Frankie there with him, and so
Right.
all of that was something that was important to him, and he it's just uh, anyone that knew your father, including Anthony Cardinale, he said that would never have he would have never had them take the fall, and it's just strange that Gravano's so self-centered that he'd talk about, oh yeah, look what John wanted to do to me, but he also was saying he wanted it that would have happened to Frankie Loke as well, and never talked about what Frankie Loke thought about it or said anything, and so it never happened. And
Exactly.
Frankie Loke continued until you know his
Dying
dying
day.
days, yes,
Exactly.
supporting John Gotti and
Exactly.
considered him a friend, and they were very, very close.
Yes, they were.
And the
They
goal
really
of it, and the goal of it is at the very end. He played that game where where Sammy said he was trying to get Frankie out of prison.
Yeah, right. He had him sitting in there for 29 years, then he was suddenly trying to get him out. Please give me a break. This he does nothing but lie.
All
Every
the time.
story he tells, he lies. I don't watch him, but I see all of your clip, all your shows about it, other clip channels, other shows, and Marie does the shows. I see all that he's saying, and he's nothing but a liar.
Hmm.
And that's what it's coming down to. And I'm just glad someone's here to call him out. I'm glad the lawyer came forward,
Yeah,
because that's who needs to come forward. The people that were actually there. And
there,
Sammy
exactly.
has a way of talking about people that are dead, people that can't say anything.
I
Yeah.
guess he never thought that attorneys would come on here. And
Hmm.
like I said, you'll hear my father's voice soon. You'll hear what my father has to say about a lot of these things. And let's see what Gravano's going to say now. How his children aren't embarrassed that they're doing this to their father, I'll never understand. How they're letting him get up there and blatantly lie the way he's lying.
And once again,
Yeah.
just so people know who this Cardinale lawyer is, Tony is he represented the Angiulo brothers in Boston. He represented. He's the one. It was because of his filings that they found out that Whitey Bulger and Stevie Flemmi were rats for the FBI. It was his fault. It was his filings that made stuff come out that they were trying to hide. So it's obvious that this guy is not some kind of clown. He's a serious lawyer that represents,
Of course.
very serious people.
And he used to visit my dad in prison. He would go to
Right.
Marion.
That's what he said. Yeah.
Yeah. Oh, yeah. He went to Marion. He would visit my father all the time.
And well, let's see what else Sammy Gravano is going to come out. So Sammy's saying that he's going to come out and prove in a show very shortly that interview happened with Jerry Capisci. It didn't happen, so I don't know how Sammy's going to prove it.
Well,
So
listen, I said this last year, I think, that Effley Bailey was dying. He was on in
medication.
hospice and everything. So
Mhm.
how did Capici have this interview with him, or Gravano, or anybody have an interview with him? He was
Exactly. That's what
dying.
Cardinale. That's what he said. He was not capable, and Cardinale was around him at the time. There was no way he couldn't talk. He had cirrhosis of the liver. It affected his brain. He couldn't talk.
Exactly.
It's just BS what he's saying.
His exact words: the last 6 months of his life were horrible, brutal death.
Horrible.
Who,
And-
Effley Bailey?
Yes.
Mhm.
He was in
Really?
really bad condition, and spent a majority of it in hospice, and with his son at his side, that he was saying he was very, very sick. That's why he didn't believe that there was any interview done. But hey, listen, if the interview was done, where is it? We went on Capisci and checked all his backstories. It's nowhere. So, and Sammy's there the other day swearing that it exists. So
Okay.
our challenge to him is, Sammy, show us. And don't take crayon out, Sammy, and write the story down on a pad.
Mhm.
Okay, we're going to know it's your handwriting.
What else did he say, Cardinale?
Oh, well, that's pretty much it, Angel. No, he said quite a bit. He said quite a bit, but most of it was attacking. I don't want to say everything here because this is their show, and they're going to present the whole show.
Okay. When will that be out?
Probably next. They said next week, and
Okay.
I think you said maybe you'll talk about this tomorrow.
Well, I'd like to watch it first,
Oh, okay. Okay.
or know 100% what's in there, because everything I've been saying this for since the day I came on here, that Gravano is a liar. My father would never, ever, ever throw anyone under a bus, let alone somebody that he was close to. Never happened.
Right.
And that's exactly what Tony said.
Mm-hmm.
Exact same thing. And I'll go with the guy like that before I go with Sammy Gravano.
Mm-hmm.
Angel, I'm going to close this out. I'm going to drop
Thank
this.
you.
But thank you so much for coming on. It's your
Oh,
birthday.
thank
Thank
you.
It's your 26th birthday.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And I know, and 26
you.
years old. How's it feel to be that age, Angel?
Oh, it's wonderfully cold.
Just think back to when you were 26, Angel.
Yeah.
I was 26. I was with my first wife.
Well, I was 26. I was married, and I had did I have 2 kids at 26? I might have had one. 20. Yeah, I might have had 2 at 26. I had both my kids by 26.
And you see, this guy right here is a young guy. He's a young timer compared to us, Angel.
Yes, he is.
James Proctor is a lot. Well, he's younger than us. Let's put it that way. Angel, thank you so much. I appreciate you coming on.
Thank you so much. Thank you.
Thank
Now
you.
go make
What?
fun of my the way I
Pronunciation, Lee
Oh
Cole.
my God, my damn tongue! God, the older I get, I sound like I'm having a stroke.
Because
So
you know
anyway,
what it is? You rush to get there's things in your head and you rush to get them out and you don't
and-
you don't take your time letting it come out of your
okay, let me
mouth.
say, well, you know, uh, no,
Hey, I
I rather be excited and get things wrong than be slow and boring. But
oh,
anyway,
that's true. But then again, if you didn't make mistakes, what could everybody talk about, Lee Cole?
that's right. It's part of the shtick, Angel. It's part of the shtick.
Exactly.
Okay. Believe me, people don't think that I know what I'm doing. Every time I mispronounce a word, I'm like, okay, let me do this right now. I knew it was Frankie Loke. Okay.
And thank you for that short today about my birthday. That
Well,
was very
happy
sweet of
birthday.
you, Lee
You're a good
Cole.
friend,
Yeah.
and I appreciate everything you do.
Thank
Yep.
you.
Thank
Thank
you.
You take
you.
care.
You
Give my
too.
best
And
to
good
your
night,
children.
everyone.
Bye.
Thank you.
Good night.
Good night.
Okay. So this is interesting. We got a lot of stuff.
Yeah.
There's a lot more in the video, people. You got to watch the video. Lee's pushing a rat's show. No, it's a good show. Until one of you guys get out there and can pull up a guest like this, I wouldn't say anything.
Right.
I mean, you could say what you want about Mikey Scars and have the feelings you want about him, but he's the one that's taken Sammy Gravano on head first right now.
Yeah. Exactly. Yeah, and
And
he was there with them, and so you can't take that away from him. And then they're bringing in good guests, and for me, if it's good content, why not? It's good. So the
James,
other
I got to ask you a
stuff's
question.
different. Mm-hmm.
What should you do for this show if you haven't done it before?
Oh gosh. Probably you should
Sub?
hit the like button and give us money, right?
Okay. Yeah. Well, the like button, the sub, and hit the bell for the reminder are the most
Yeah.
important things. Besides that, we'll talk about the other end. We have a lot
Yeah.
of good things coming up for this show. We're
Hmm.
working on right now. And
Right.
like I said, we weren't planning on doing this. I hope people like this.
Hmm.
James,
Yep.
thank you. Have a nice
Thank
one.
you very much. Yep.